The England stuff is really interesting, right?
Yeah.
You know Tom Curry, obviously, their back row.
Yeah.
What age do you think Tom Curry is?
24.
He's 23.
Is he?
I think that, and he's got 36 caps. I'm like, he's been around forever. 36 caps at 23.
And
now maybe it's too much. Do you know? Maybe Tom Curry, by the age of 27, his body starts to break down. His hips and his shoulders are like very difficult for him to get to the same level he was at when he was 19, 20. I don't know. It's such a high impact physical sport. Players come in, we play them when they're really young. They have a great first season. Their second season is a bit of a struggle. Their third season they're injured. Their fourth and fifth season they finally make the comeback. So maybe, I don't know what the right answer is when it comes to the balance of finding enough depth to make sure that when you hit the World Cup you only pick players who are in form.
Well, is there a case to be made that actually whatever Eddie Jones is doing is the correct course of action?
No, definitely.
Like, you can't argue against Eddie Jones and his record in terms of getting a team right for the World Cup. I mean, we sat there at the beginning of 2019, maybe just me, and thought that, we were at least on a par with England.
How many of the England players will get in the Ireland team in 2019?
Not better. Thankfully, that wasn't me. But we were being facetious a little bit. But there was also a real sense of, Ireland are at least as good as England in at that stage, and it was a marked difference between the two teams actually performing. Sure, we get hockey by the All Blacks a week later. England beat the All Blacks. I mean, that is the difference between those two teams. He's obviously got previous with Japan and with Australia as well. This is a guy who knows how to make a World Cup cycle work. Ireland is a team that has historically never made a World Cup cycle work. So if we're actually having a debate about should we be blooding the kids or not, we clearly should be, because the guy who is the master at the World Cup is after doing it.
The one thing is, right, maybe this suits the IRFU because they make their money in year 3 of the World Cup cycle, and they're like, everybody else is planning for the World Cup and we're there, we slalom in and make an extra couple of million quid. I'm not joking about that. The money is the thing.
I know.
The money is the KPIs for the Ireland coaches. It's always about performance in the Six Nations, and then if we do well in the World Cup, happy days. That's what the business says. What the rugby side of it says, we're going to reach the semi-final of the World Cup, and if we don't, turns out there was no repercussions. There was no repercussions for failure the last time. From the man, the big brain behind rugby in Ireland didn't do what he said he would do, didn't do what he set out to do, was there in his gear on the coaching field, so clearly had some influence on the whole thing. There was a scapegoat report which was nicely wrapped up in a bow, and Joe shuffled off, so it was fine because there was no hangover from that perspective. But maybe it just suits Ireland to be a team who does really well. Maybe it suits the hierarchy of the IRFU to be a team who does really well in year 3 of the 4-year cycle, when the other teams, the big teams, who genuinely dream about winning the World Cup, have their eye on winning the World Cup.
But it shouldn't be that way. That should not be the way a sporting organisation works in the context of its most elite team. Its most elite team should be trying to achieve at the very highest level, and that is trying to win a World Cup. And yes, of course, there is a far deeper pool of players in England and in France. But if you look at the club game and what we're seeing at Champions Cup level, at the very top tier of these players, the Irish players are as good as the English and French players. And in a lot of the positions, granted, we don't have a Dupont or an Entomac or potentially a Marcus Smith, but who knows? Maybe with a bit of Eddie Jones attitude towards the Six Nations, they could potentially unearth a couple of those. But by and large, what we're seeing is that the standard of teams, while concentrated into a couple of only 4 provinces in Ireland, is by and large at a similar level to what the top tiers of English and French teams are. So there is no excuse whatsoever for us walking away from a World Cup and saying, well, they're just a bigger rugby nation than us. Yes, they are. But every other part of the rugby calendar, club level Six Nations calendar, Ireland seem to do okay. And that just can't be down to a bigger pool of players. No,
I agree with everything you've just said. I just wonder if there's a bunch of people in the IRFU who put out the reports and the strategic plans and everything, and the World Cup semi-final is its target, but actually it doesn't seem to matter. It hasn't mattered. No one has been like I'm talking here specifically. It's Nucifora's plan. It's Nucifora's target. It didn't happen. He didn't achieve it. And what happened? It's like, it actually doesn't really matter. We'll just get a new coaching ticket in and we'll go again. And we're peaking in year 3. And I think it's going to be very interesting, and it could be a very exciting Six Nations. And we'll enjoy it in the moment, because we all should be enjoying the moments that we live in. We should definitely be present. The world is teaching us that at the moment. But at the same time, their organisation must be like, we're repeating a pattern here. How do we break the pattern so we're good at the World Cup?
Yeah. Yeah, like I think we can enjoy the moment with James Hume at 12.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about this team.
In fact, I think we can enjoy the moment even more if there's like, we're not talking about wholesale changes.
I'd love to see Lowry in the team. Hugo Keenan is absolutely brilliant, right? He is absolutely brilliant. His performance against the All Blacks was sensational. But just take him out for a while and give somebody else the opportunity to be second. Because if we play him in these games and we play him in the 3 tests in New Zealand, and then he gets injured in the World Cup, what are we going to do?
Yeah, that's like, that absolutely has to be top priority in terms of.
But it's not, because the KPI are win this tournament, and if I'm bonused, and if the whole organisation is desperate to win this competition, you just pick your best team. Of course you do, because that's sport. You pick your best team no matter what.
There are obviously just a couple of differences in terms of the players in different positions. Obviously, like, I mean, Keenan is going to be your number one come the World Cup, and you're looking for a backup barring injury. Whereas in midfield, it's maybe more of a complicated question. Like, Bundyaki is 31 now. Like, I mean, we're 18 months away. He's playing brilliant rugby. He'll be fine.
He will.
But at the same time, are there other players of a more aged disposition who potentially won't be as good in 18 months, and leaves himself open to potentially dropping out before then?
Well, Sexton and Murray.
Like, that's they're the obvious two. Like, future proofing that as much as trying to back up in terms of for preparation for injuries is more important, because age is undefeated and time is undefeated and all that. So we're having this conversation on the back of a midfielders chat, and I don't think there's any doubt that it's a position that's actually quite well stacked at the moment.
Dara O'Toole says Tom Curry is too good to leave out, though. Maybe a blend of giving them rest years in the middle like Richie McCaw did. It might work for welfare and extend their careers and mentorship roles. We've been banging on about giving everybody a career break. Like, they should give Tyke Furlong an extra year on his contract, pay him the money, but make him go on farm or lie on a beach for a year, like in the middle of the next cycle. They should. That's exactly what they should do. What?
Just make him farm. It's just
whatever. Make him farm. Let him farm. Obviously, you're going down and you're doing. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Just somebody standing over him as he's milking cows.
Not good enough.
David Nucifora.
6 out of 10. Right, 8:43 this morning.